Blog Talk Radio.
Peace. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and foes. Welcome to another edition, and I am your host. Allow me to bring you greetings from the universal creator, Theoten, from the Lord Akhenaten, and from the Lady Nefertiti. Those three are one. That's the monotheism that was first established about 4,000 years ago, before you had monotheism incorporated into religions like Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all kinds of isms and schisms, religions and denominations and factions on this earth. And that was from the revelation of the Lord God, Akhenaten. And he equipped that monotheism with laws, with principles, with statutes, with axioms, with proverbs, with principles, divine wisdom, so that in knowledge and understanding, so that you will be able as human beings to guide yourself through the path of life. And in the end of your life, hopefully it is a long life, that every day it gets you closer and closer to becoming in oneness with the divine, losing the duality that automatically comes with you being born on earth. And that duality, what I mean, is simple. There is no three. There is no one. It's a duality. Male, female, up, down, in, out, off, on, up, down, light, dark, on, off. See, you have all these dualities. And if you use them in the right way, it becomes one. Like, for instance, if you need power on your phone, you have a device, charger, where you plug into your device that operates as an end, and then you have to connect another end into a wall socket where you get electricity that will pour into it, which meaning the electricity coming out from the wall into the phone. See, everything is in and out, up and down, off, on. Male, female, positive, negative, righteous, wicked. But why? So you can master those things and live in a life of balance. There's a universal principle of balance and moderation. I know I haven't spoken on in a very long time universal laws and principles. Something I must tell you, that way back in the mid-90s, when I was coming off and under 12-year tenure under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. And so back at that time, I'm learning that who God was. And I understood something, that God is that which manifests all these principles for us, and whoever is that manifests all those principles, they had to be God, because only God would be able to manifest all of this for us and get us to go aright, but at the same time, don't punish you, but give you a choice of what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. But you know that every good choice would have good results. Every bad choice would have bad choices, or bad results or repercussions. That is part of the duality. But for this, you're learning. You're supposed to learn from each lesson, no matter if you're successful in your lesson or you failed in your lesson. What's important is that you're learning from those lessons. You see, each lesson, each problem, each situation, each trial and tribulation that you go through in life, you have to be tested. You have to be tempted. So even in the prayer of the Lord's Prayer, where they have it in the Bible, Lord, lead us not into temptation. No, he ain't leading you into nothing. It's you that's leading yourself there. He wouldn't do that. No, you are there based on your choices. Could be choices in friends. Could be choices in environment. It could be choices of who you hanging out with and that kind of stuff like that. It's your choices that got you there. It ain't him doing that. But he is no respecter of persons. It will measure out justice to you, whether you like it or not, whether positive or negative. At least it's fair and balanced. Just understand that. Everything with the divine. Fair and balanced. There is no discrimination. There is no bigotry. There is no discrimination with the divine. It's important that you know that. It's very important that you know that. It's very important that you know that. So don't let me be remiss in my duty in bringing you greetings from the Lord Akhenaten, the Lady Nefertiti, and the universal creator Diaten by saying to you peace in all languages, because I don't know all language, but I wish you peace in every language known possible. In the Amharic language, and I'll say that to you by saying salam. And in the Arabic, I would say salam. And in the Hebrew Aramaic, I would say shalom. And that simply means peace. I wish peace to be upon you and every single human being on this planet, no matter if they're righteous or wicked, no matter if they're black or white, no matter if whatever their religious persuasion is, no matter what their political persuasion is, no matter what their ethnicity is, no matter what country that they're living in, no matter if they're male or female. I wish peace to be upon everybody, no matter if they're bond or free. I wish peace to be upon every human being. The reason why you must understand the fairness of the divine is because those on the planet, no matter what ethnicity they are, some people, a lot of people, feel slighted in rule, and certain people is not in rule. And some of us would believe that we would be more just than the people that's ruling. So let's deal with this, because you might not realize how important a subject like this is. But if God gave you the power to rule as you are right now, would you be a better ruler over the earth rather than those that is ruling over the earth right now? You might be quick and say yes. But how would you know unless you test it? And don't you know, every day you are being tested. You say, how would God be testing us to see if we will be good stewards, good governors over the earth?
Are you ready to be part of something greater? To reconnect with your roots and experience true liberation? Welcome to Gospel of Yashua, where faith, culture, and community unite to uplift and empower. We believe in a future where our people are liberated, prosperous, and united under one God, one culture, and one vision. By joining the world community of Amarna, you'll unlock a path toward peace, prosperity, and spiritual growth. Explore our inspiring podcast to fuel your faith, shop at the Amarna Market for culturally empowering goods, and dive into insightful blogs that reconnect us to our shared heritage. As a member, you contribute to a greater vision, building cultural centers, schools, and businesses that support our people locally and globally. Together, we uplift, protect, and prosper as one. Join us now at gospelofyeshua.com and become part of a global movement dedicated to unity, growth, and prosperity. One God, one culture, one people. The time to grow together is now.
And so on and so forth. Well, watch this. You, as an individual, time of your birth going all the way up until you get into your teenage years, you are impressed upon with morals, values, rights and wrongs, do this, don't do that. You know, some of you got spanking, some of you got punishments, and so on and so forth. All that is designed so that as you get older, able to be a decent citizen, a good son, a good daughter, a good husband, a good wife. And somehow along the way, as we get older and getting ready to graduate from high school, so that's around 17, 18 years old, there's some of us that say, hey, we made it all this far. So all what my parents showed me, all what my teachers showed me, different examples of getting in trouble, staying out of trouble, getting punished, even getting rewarded for different things that we have done. And so on and so forth. We kind of slip. And in that slipping, then you'll determine. You can easily deduce if you is qualified to rule over the planet. Now, those that's ruling over the planet, hey. I'm not saying that they're the absolute best people that should be ruling over the earth, because some of them got it by trickery. Some of them got it by invasion. Some got it by culturally confusing other groups of people. Some people got it by religious brainwashing, educational brainwashing, and just plain fear. Imposing fear upon other human beings. Right or wrong? Now, even before I go deep into adulthood, you know yourself that as you was a teenager, so I'm talking to everybody over 20 years old, over 24 years old, as a matter of fact, that when you was 18 years old, would you be qualified if God gave you the title to say you are his vicegerent, which means deputy, which means one that operates for God while you don't physically see God. So you're operating physically in God's physical absence. But we all feel their spiritual power. Stay with me. You know that wouldn't be possible. Because if rulership was given in your hands at 18 years old, at the time you graduate, and you was equipped with money, would you have done the right thing? Or would, in very little time, you will be out of money? And if they gave you the power, the nuclear power, to go to war with other nations of people, would you have bombed different people that even just had a slight disagreement with you? We see, because you know why? We know this by your relationships right now. That somebody could send what seemed like a negative message on Instagram or on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or Snapchat, and you ready to snap, ain't you? Oh, I kill him. Oh, I do this. Oh, I bust his nose. I knock his teeth out of his mouth. You see? So if God gave you the power to rule, how would you rule? It's easy to point out, to say, oh, we want to govern over ourselves. We're going to get to that in just a moment. And you're going to understand, once I get done, why such a simplistic message like this is actually more complex than you think it is. You know, sometimes I make titles like this on purpose to make you think, posing a question like that. Because we won't answer it honestly. You know full well you ain't qualified. You know full well you're not qualified to give justice to everybody, regardless of how they look, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of what their religion is. Hebrew Israelites right now, they're talking about when they get power, because you know they're not going to get power. So they're thinking when they're going to get power, they're going to enslave the Europeans. That means they have not learned nothing of what they claim is in their Bible, because that's not what they are looking at. A few passages and they say, "Oh, see, look, it says it right here that we would put them in chains for putting us in chains." And certain interpretations of the book or translations of that book to make people think a certain type of way. Have you ever thought that? I know you haven't. You're just taking it as it is, and I'm gonna tell you, you're setting yourself up for destruction. And then those things that sound good like that, oh yeah, well, it sounds good to them. Well, I'm going to enslave these people for enslaving us. Well, let me pose another question. How do you know that you didn't enslave other people, and then when they enslave you, now you want to turn around and enslave them? But what if you was getting the repercussions of what you had done previous? Have you ever thought of that? Do you know, can you go back that far in history to know what your ancestors did without using the Bible and without using the Quran? No, you can't. Why? Because none of you talk about that. You don't know nothing about that. If you did, you would speak that. And your mindset would be different. You don't know nothing about that. Well, okay then. So you're answering my question. You're not qualified. Sometimes, okay, look, watch this. See, if you're thinking that way, pay them back. Not knowing the history of what you have done before. See, because the reason why people repeat history or victim to the history where they can't climb up out of it in order to better their condition is because they're repeating some of the same things of that history that's keeping them inside, padlocked inside of that history. Do you understand? Does that make sense to you? Sometimes you cannot climb up out of your condition because you haven't learned the lesson of why you are in that condition. I'm going to say that again. Most times, the reason why a people cannot come out of their condition is because they still repeating some of the nonsense that got them in that position or that station in life. And they will not behave themselves and come up out of that condition. This is why the good Lord revealed to us morals, values, a code of ethics, and so on. See, you go into the Ten Commandments, for instance, and look at the very last one, the 10th. It says that thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, his wife, his whatever belongs to your neighbors. Why? Because that's your neighbors. Many people think that means don't take nothing. No, that doesn't mean that. It means desire. Do not desire anything that belongs to your neighbor. That would include his wife. That means don't be sitting over there salivating over that woman. Oh, she got a big booty. Oh, she got some nice round breasts. That's your business. And don't give me the excuse that gave me eyes. Well, if you believe in the New Testament, some of you believe in Jesus. So let me put some of that word on you too. He said, if your eye to sin, gouge it out, because you'll rather go in the kingdom of God with one eye, rather be judged with two, and then you won't get in. Ain't that what it said? So that means you got to be careful about what you see, beloved. Right or wrong? You know I'm right. So you can't use that, well, God gave me eyes, to somebody that don't know your book. But I'm going to, like I always say, I'm going to whoop you with your book. Since it didn't give you no sense, I'm going to beat some sense into your mind with that book. Because the stuff that makes sense in there, I can tell you where that came from, and you know where it came from if you've been listening to me at any point of time. If you listen to me 1 or 2 lectures, you already know where it came from. And rewards its researchers, then you would have to know history. And since you don't know history, y'all using the Bible and the Quran as history, which those books is nothing but socio-religious texts in order to rule and govern over people. It's to brainwash people. Is there some good stuff in it? Yes, there's some good stuff in it, but they're used to brainwash and make masses of people docile and make them obey the instructions of those that's on top, that's posing as Jesus, and giving those instructions as if they're Jesus, or Moses, or Muhammad, or one of the prophets, or Buddha, or Krishna, or Tao, or Shinto, or Baha'i, or any of these great men that came before. And then when I die, they're going to say, and Yashua said. Right or wrong? Just like my spiritual grandfather. They say, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this. So it continues, beloved. Right or wrong? Whole lot of prophets, whole lot of wise men. And it just continues in succession. Why it continues to go into succession? Because human beings just will not learn the lessons. So then you will constantly have new teachers. I know. If God gave you the power to rule over the earth, would you rule justly, without bigotry, without discrimination, without being prejudiced? Majority of people, no. You get pulled over by cops. Oh, this cop is racist. When you know you did wrong. You know you're not obeying the law. For instance, now I'll bring another religious group in here. I'm not picking on nobody, but it's just instances that comes up in my mind. You got sovereign citizens, and then you got people that is in these rogue groups. That's little spin-offs of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So they out here with fake license plates, or some don't even register the car at all. So you out here with driving a car, no license, or if you had a license, it's revoked. Speeding. Then you get pulled over by a cop. The cop finds out you don't have insurance, the car is not registered, you don't have any license, and then you acting like you haven't committed a crime. You have committed a crime. The crime is not somebody just being injured. Some crimes are, you're charged with it because it's preventative. They're preventing a death. They're preventing damage to somebody else's car. So if you're driving and you don't have license, your car is not registered, you don't have any insurance, that means then you would have ran into somebody, didn't have any insurance, didn't have no license. So how would the people be compensated if you done crashed their $80,000 car and the frame is bent, so now the car is totaled? They need another car. Who can they sue but you? And you're going around here doing these crimes. Is that what Noble Drew Ali taught you? Then you need to throw that in the garbage. Because that's false. It's just like the instance that I gave with the Hebrew Israelites. If your leaders is teaching you that we're going to enslave other people because they enslaved us, you better throw that teaching in the garbage and get over here and apply these teachings to your life so that you can be an upright human being. Because you ain't getting nothing without being upright. And that's the problem, and why you're still on the bottom. You just will not do right. Here as the next teacher to get you to do right. And stop doing what you want to do. That's why it says in the book of Proverbs, trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding, but in all things.
Are you ready to be part of something greater? To reconnect with your roots and experience true liberation? Welcome to Gospel of Yashua, where faith, culture, and community unite to uplift and empower. We believe in a future where our people are liberated, prosperous, and united under one God, one culture, and one vision. By joining the world community of Amarna, you'll unlock a path toward peace, prosperity, and spiritual growth. Explore our inspiring podcast to fuel your faith, shop at the Amarna Market for culturally empowering goods, and dive into insightful blogs that reconnect us to our shared heritage. As a member, you contribute to a greater vision, building cultural centers, schools, and businesses that support our people locally and globally. Together, we uplift, protect, and prosper as one. Join us now at gospelofyeshua.com and become part of a global movement dedicated to unity, growth, and prosperity. One God, one culture, one people. The time to grow together is now.
Acknowledge him, and he would guide your path. And that's what it really means to submit your will to do the will of God. So then that brings us into the next group, into the Nation of Islam. I got to use the black race because this is what you're into. You can't be emphasizing the knowledge of self. The self is the ego. It's the individual. There's no knowledge you need to know about you yourself as an individual. You already know about that. So you got the wrong terminology. You're supposed to know knowledge of God, knowledge of your enemies, if you have any, knowledge of your ancestors, of their culture, if you have forgotten that. You need knowledge of your cuisine. If you don't eat the cuisine of your ancestors, you need to know the knowledge of the history of your ancestors if you have been robbed of that type of history and not participating in that history. What you need to know about yourself, or you already know that you're a fallen being. So we got to correct that. No, you don't need the knowledge of self. You need to be culturally resuscitated and re-educated and put you back on the path of productivity. Do you understand? Again, you need to throw out the notion that you need knowledge of self. You need to be culturally resuscitated, culturally re-educated to put you back on the path of cultural restoration. That means that you could build up yourself and your people collectively together. There's nothing by yourself that you could do. It makes you into a bunch of individuals. Everybody got their own path when you're dealing with the self. Do you understand? So this is a misnomer. There's no way you can emphasize doing something for yourself and then operate as a group. It's a moronic concept, and I got to teach you the truth. I know that teaching in and out. I was born and raised in that. You can't tell me nothing about that. Now some will try to twist it. That's because they don't understand the word. Knowledge means gnosis. The ego. It's the lower nature of man that's operating without God. He's on his own. You can't operate on your own. So can you rule? No, you can't rule. Because you will be thinking you're doing things on your own. And without God, without his assistance, without his power, without his knowledge. So then you will come up with your own stuff. Your own. Can you govern over human beings without being a bigot? Without being prejudiced, without being discriminatory to other people? Well, if you're using the NOI teaching, no, you can't. If you're using the more science people, no, you can't. If you're using the Hebrew Israelite teaching, no, you can't. All that stuff is obsolete, ineffective, no longer should be used. Otherwise, you're crippling yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice. You might think you're sitting on some high knowledge until you roll up and understand what your brother is teaching over here. Yes, my knowledge and that I give that was bestowed upon my lips by the Lord Akhenaten. Yes, it supersedes my spiritual grandfather, the the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Yes! This wisdom that I speak supersedes Noble Drew Ali, my great uncle. Yes! My knowledge that I speak today, that's really, it's the Lord Akhenaten. Yes, it supersedes the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Yes, it does. It's superior to that. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. My knowledge today and give you the insights of the Bible, it supersedes Rabbi Ben Ami, Rabbi Whitworth A. Matthews, and I love that man. But what I'm saying to you supersedes all of them. It has to supersede them. That's not it. I'm not telling you nothing that's not true. All you have to do is look at my teaching. All you have to do is turn on my podcast and listen. All you have to do is read literature that I wrote, books that I wrote. And you will know that my wisdom that I got from God is way superior, and it's what you need to guide you onto the right path unto God. Hate to love it, but it's still the truth. You can't get around me. Get around me. You can't get around me. Are you qualified to rule over the earth? No. Not when you got the blood of Malcolm X on your hands. No. That means you will murder your own just because they have a religious and a moral argument against you. Well, he ain't to say nothing. He got the freedom of speech. You live in America. You don't live in the Middle East. So you ain't got the right to say something. You're living in this country. So if you're guilty of killing your own people, hell no, you ain't got the right, nor the power, nor the wisdom to rule and govern over your own people, least long over the earth. You will absolutely world more in balance than to be in correct balance with nature and with God. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, I said that. Now, the only way you can prove me wrong if you apply these teachings that I am revealing to you today and correct your path. That's the only way. There is no other way. Everything of the old is old. Child that is in 8th grade, is he still using the books from the teachers of the 1950s? Hell no. Well, then why are you using old religious teachings today, thinking you're going to get somewhere? Huh? It's obsolete. It's ineffective. You go nowhere with that. Y'all say there is no mystery God. Why are you waiting on a mysterious ship that you don't know a goddamn thing about? Mythology. Because if it didn't happen in the past, it ain't going to happen now. That's how the divine works. That's how the divine works. It will never do nothing that it already haven't done. Now prove me wrong. That somehow the so-called righteous that picked up on spaceships and was lifted off the earth. You ain't got one instance of that in ancient history or modern history. Get your ass up out of here with that. No, you're going to have to qualify to become righteous people.
Are you ready to be part of something greater? To reconnect with your roots and experience true liberation? Welcome to Gospel of Yashua, where faith, culture, and community unite to uplift and empower. We believe in a future where our people are liberated, prosperous, and united under one God, one culture, and one vision. By joining the world community of Amarna, you'll unlock a path toward peace, prosperity, and spiritual growth. Explore our inspiring podcast to fuel your faith, shop at the Amarna Market for culturally empowering goods, and dive into insightful blogs that reconnect us to our shared heritage. As a member, you contribute to a greater vision. building cultural centers, schools, and businesses that support our people locally and globally. Together, we uplift, protect, and prosper as one. Join us now at gospelofyeshua.com and become part of a global movement dedicated to unity, growth, and prosperity. One God, one culture, one people. The time to grow together is now.
You're going to have to apply some new teaching. So how could God give you next? You can't have next. You ain't qualified. So if you was trusted right now, where will you go? So you got your black Christian, you got to use this. I'm sorry, got to use this. You know yourself. If you're living in New York listening to me, if you're living in Chicago listening to me, if you live in Atlanta, you live in Miami, if you're living in Vegas, if you're living in Los Angeles, if you're living in Minneapolis, if you're living in Milwaukee, if you're living in Indiana, if you're living in Ohio, if you're living in Newark, anywhere with a population of black people that's concentrated. Answer this question for me. Today is Sunday. You got, if black people is a so-called minority, meaning other groups out-label us, and according to U.S. Census, we are 13 to 14% of the U.S. population, about roughly somewhere between 40 and 45 million people, and America holds about 390, close to 400 million people. So yeah, you're quite the minority, by the census. Now watch this. There is more churches, even though these other peoples, that would include all Europeans, that would include Arabs, those of the Middle East, that would include certain groups of Africans. Yes, that's all under white. That would include Hispanics. That would include Asians, and so on and so forth. In every concentrated area where there is black people, we have more churches, more houses of worship, more masjids, more mosques, more temples, more cathedrals that caters to black people more than any of all those other groups put together, don't we? We got more houses of worship than all other groups put together. Sometimes we got 3 and 4 churches on one city block. I see it all the time in Chicago. I'm sure you see it in New York. I'm sure you see it in Atlanta. I'm sure you see it in Dallas and Houston. I'm sure you see it in Los Angeles. I'm sure you see it in Vegas. I'm sure you see it in Milwaukee. I'm sure you see it in Indianapolis. I'm sure you see it in Ohio, in Philadelphia, in New Jersey, in Washington, D.C., in Baltimore. Come on now. You see it. You got more churches than anybody else, and God damn it, you still and full of sin and wickedness. So what have those books done for you? Why haven't you applied it to your life? So it's you. So if a white man, if an Arab, if an Asian, if a Hispanic is able to apply the Bible and to apply the Quran, what the hell is your problem, Negro? Because you're doing it for yourself. You ain't doing it for God. So how could God give you power over the earth? All you're going to do is cause bloodshed. Look at your neighborhoods in the ghetto. Alone proves my point. If you was given power, you would turn. If in the United States, if they just turned everything over to the Negro. Every nook and cranny, every mile would turn into a damn ghetto. And there would be civil war all over the place, all bunch of killings and rapings and murderings. You know I'm telling you the truth. Debris all over the place, pop bottles, pop cans, liquor wrappers, hot chill wrappers all over the goddamn place. Nobody clean up nothing. And you got the same problem in Africa. All in the concentrated areas, and you look in the sewer areas, and you see all kinds of debris. What have you learned? You just will not do right. That's why you at the bottom. I know why you don't like me. So you like my predecessor. You love Farrakhan. Why? Because he got on the white man's ass. I'm going to get on your ass. Because you ain't getting well like this. You are sin-sick people. You don't get well talking about other people. You get well when you take the diagnosis from the doctor. And you take the prescription to become better. Even if the medicine is nasty. Even though the medicine tastes gross. But if you use it, it will better your life. And that's where we are today. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they pointed so much at the white man, you forgot that you had done evil. But in his literature, he tells you that you did evil. But somehow you was of the God tribe, causing evil. How is that of God? Damn wicked as hell. Ain't everybody else. It's you. You fell victim to other people because you're wicked. So if God gave you the power to rule, you can't even rule your household. So how the hell you going to have power over government? Your household is in chaos. And they don't want to obey the man. The man is not being responsible for what he needs to do for his family. Children are on their own, being guided by their peers rather than their parents. You know I'm telling you the truth. Children are angry with their parents. They're deviated, so their children is born in deviation. How you gonna make them good when you, as the parent, is in deviation? How you gonna teach them to be better? Then when they go to school, the damn teachers is in chaos. Children rather listen to their peers, listen to their music, and become everything what they're not supposed to do. You know I'm telling you the truth. If you can't rule your household, there ain't no damn way you can rule over other people. I don't care what you say. That's the first government right there. Well, the first government is governing yourself under God's dominion, submitting yourself under God's dominion. Then it's going off and being a good husband and a good wife, and then good parents. Then you can qualify yourself to go out into society and do those things. That is upright. So if you have been upright at home, if you were taught to be upright, and then you and your wife is upright, you and your husband is upright, then you can have upright children. Not saying that they're not going to deviate a little bit. Not saying that they're not going to do some sin. Not saying they're not going to fall into some type of trial and tribulation. They got to do that. But what the scripture says, a righteous man can fall 7 times and recover. So they're supposed to go through certain things. Do you understand? That don't mean that they would have a perfect life. Nobody ever said that. See, we can't pretend to be righteous. We really got to do the right thing. We really got to do the right thing. The reason why it works for Europeans and other peoples is because they're just not as deviated as you are, beloved. And I know that's hard for you to believe because you don't want to see your wrong. You don't want nobody to give you a mirror. But God damn it, you coming over here, I'm going to give you that mirror every single time to let you know that you are wicked. Don't worry about nobody else. You better worry about your own people and worry about your household and worry about yourself as an individual. And then ask yourself the question, am I doing what I'm supposed to do as a black and African people? And then that goes into other peoples of the world. Because most of my message is applicable to all groups of people in this world. So I'm not no bigot. I'm not discriminatory. I'm not prejudiced. This word is for everybody. Because all you are sin-sick souls. Some is just a little sicker than others. So just because you might want to rule over the earth in your little religious group and so on and so forth, you want to go around being prophets and messengers and Jesuses and messiahs or whatever, but you ain't removing no burdens and you ain't destroying no yokes, are you? You're still under the dominion of people that don't look like you, and ain't not a damn thing your teachings or anything else could do about it. Only person, only entity that could change that is the ones that I opened up with, because those are the ones you're supposed to be giving all praise, all glory, all homage to. And those three are one. And if you ain't got that focused on your mind yet, I can tell you, you still is going to be in your slave condition for another 100 years. Until your grandchildren come along and they have heard of my teachings and they begin to apply that, and then they will come up out of the hole. But you ain't getting off and around me. I'm going to let you know it's you. You got to do right. Can you change it in this generation? Yes, you can. But you're going to have to apply my teachings. You say, but why? We got to apply your teachings. Because I just told you why. But you're not listening. Well, you got too much wax in your ears? Is your heart something that you can't understand? Is your heart that deviated that you can't understand? I just told you. We could pretend like you don't hear me. You say, well, I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to become a member. Okay, I mean, it's right. And if the prophets of old, and us those stories, it's right. Y'all didn't follow them back then either. How many followers did Isaiah have? Isaiah was on the East Africans' backside. Remember, in the history of Isaiah, or Yashua, he walked to the northern part of Egypt, all the way down to the southern tip of Ethiopia, and he walked back and forth for 3 years. And he told them, and they thought he was crazy. He was called the naked prophet. So these Europeans ain't going to tell you this. And he walked back and forth, and he told them that they were going out of that land, but naked and chained. Because one, of what they did to other peoples. And number two, because they will not obey God. Because God had already chosen them, and they accepted the challenge. I can see if they didn't accept it, but they accepted it. They say, we will be your people. And from then on, that's why you have it in the see these little passages. You got to understand these little. See, this is what you're not going to get in a regular church. They're not going to teach you this kind of stuff. That's what you got right there in the book of Amos. It says, only you have I known out of all the nations of the earth. Therefore, I must punish you for your sins. And sins is only transgression against divine law. Why? Because you was given the divine law. So now he has to punish you. How do you punish you? You're going to keep repeating the same mistakes until you get it right. Now, we have went out and mixed in with all other peoples in the world because we were sent into a worldwide captivity, not just to the United States of America or in the diaspora. We were sent all over the world. Do you understand? And we became of all peoples, speaking all languages, looking like all peoples, but we oppressed of all peoples. Do you understand? We speak all languages of all peoples because we are there. There's black Iraqis. There's black Saudi Arabians. There is black Chinese. There's black Japanese. There's black Europeans. There's black Hispanics. And where are you at? It's a goddamn bummer. I'm not cussing. Damn means condemned. God condemned. The bottom is condemned. When you're supposed to be at the top. Why are you not at the top? You're at the top because you will not apply.
Are you ready to be part of something greater? To reconnect with your roots and experience true liberation? Welcome to Gospel of Yashua, where faith, culture, and community unite to uplift and empower. We believe in a future where our people are liberated, prosperous, and united under one God, one culture, and one vision. By joining the world community of Amarna, you'll unlock a path toward peace, prosperity, and spiritual growth. Explore our inspiring podcast to fuel your faith, shop at the Amarna Market for culturally empowering goods, and dive into insightful blogs that reconnect us to our shared heritage. As a member, you contribute to a greater vision, building cultural centers, schools, and businesses that support our people locally and globally. Together, we uplift, protect, and prosper as one. Join us now at gospelofyeshua.com and become part of a global movement dedicated to unity, growth, and prosperity. One God, one culture, one people. The time to grow together is now.
What the Lord have already revealed. And your ancestors, and you are your ancestors living right now as their descendants. And you just don't apply. The good word now is your opportunity to apply. You've had a jump start with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You had a jump start with the Honorable Malcolm X. Shabazz. You had a jump start with Marcus Garvey. You had a jump start with Denmark Vesey. You had a jump start with Gabriel Prosser. You had a jump start with His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie. You had a jump start with Noble Drew Ali. You had a jump start with Rabbi Wentworth A. Matthews. You had a jump start with Robbie Ben Ami. You had a jump start with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Time for you to put everything into action. Because I'm the protege and understudy of all of them. And it's time for you to put it to work. How they used to say back in the day? You know, either you got to or get off the pot. One of the two. It's time for you to perform. It's time for you to become the people that the divine wants you to become. You got to stop lacking. The thing you need to do is stop having children. Hold off. Because the only thing you're doing is making your problem even worse. Hold off. And become the very best man that you could be, the very best woman that you could be, to be the very best daughter, to be the very best son, to be the very best citizen, to be the very best worshiper of God. And you only can do that if you apply my teachings. Because otherwise it ain't even going to make sense. To some of you, it don't even make sense to be a good citizen in the land of your captivity. But I'm going to tell you this once and for all in my closing. If you cannot obey these simple laws in the United States or in the diaspora where you are not in position of rulership, God can't trust you to rule for Him. Because it should be hard for you to operate under the enemy. But it's easy. It's hard when you're a rebel. It's easy when you submit your will to do the will of God. So even if you are under your enemies and you obeying that law, that means then that God has to qualify. You ain't got a choice. Woo! you don't understand that power right there. Because submitting your will to do the will of God, meaning just to do right, that means you even do right even under your enemy's domain. Why? Because then they would have no hold on you. If they got some hold on you, they got you with all kinds of crimes and felonies and all kinds of stuff. That means then you belong to them. Ain't a spiritual law under the sun can get you off and under that. That's why the scripture says, train the child up in the way it should go, and when it gets old, it shall not depart. So they got to be trained in righteousness. They got to understand the rights and the wrongs, the positive and the negative, the strengths and the weaknesses of their own being, to overcome it, to be in likeness with God, to be in oneness with God. It's a constant struggle. It's a constant battle. And that's why I told you, we war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of the darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. They're getting you to be spiritually wicked. With all your music and your fashion and all those kind of things like that. And all I tell you to do is turn off that rap music. You need to get over here and turn on these podcasts. Turn on these videos. And then, when you don't want to hear it, when you don't want to see it, you should be able to read it. Then you go to the website, you download all the books, and then you read it, and then you share it, and then every damn day, this is what you're doing. Until you become in oneness. If you're not doing that, you're in deviation. Period. Period. If you're not doing that, you're in deviation. Because this is my time, and I'm your teacher today. I was made this way. I was qualified this way. I was fashioned to do this work today. And in all points, just like you, I'm not in deviation. Or I can show you how to get out of the deviation that you're in, because the Lord made me that way. And you will not come to me so that you will have life. It's up to you, beloved. This is your day. Yes, God wants to put you on top because you have been on the bottom too long. That's not discrimination. That's not racism. That's not prejudice. That's not bigotry. You're supposed to have learned through the process of injustice to become the ones that God could use in order to usher in justice for all peoples. And you still is falling victim to racism, white supremacy as philosophies. Those philosophies have no power. Words don't have no power. It's actions that we're looking at. Come these things. You can't overcome them by calling people devils. You can't overcome this by being bigots and by being discriminatory to other peoples. You ain't going to overcome this by saying that don't marry any snow bunny. You ain't going to overcome that like that. You're going to have to apply a teaching to your life, and that teaching is going to have to become you. And you're going to have to become that teaching. You and that teaching becomes one, and you operate that. So what am I saying? I'm saying we got to fix your software. It's how you think, how you speak, and that will determine how you act. So I'm in the business of repairing thought and repairing how the condition of your heart works. So I'm a heart and a brain surgeon, spiritually, morally, and culturally. And this is the only way that you get life. So with that, I'm going to close. This is why. I'm sorry to just break the news to you. But what do you expect? I reform people. You can't expect me to just teach you everything good. When you have to be reformed, when you look up what reform means, then you will understand my spirit. I don't have a mean spirit. I have a spirit that cares about you deeply. And that I want you to have the best. I want you living in peace. I want you to be living in prosperity. And I want you to have good health and living in high wisdom. The only way you can do that if you apply my teachings, because they're good for you. They will elevate you, and they will put you where you really desire to go. So don't covet other people's because of what they have, or they are in charge, or in power, and so on and so forth. No, you qualify yourself. You say, I see what they're doing, but I'm going to supersede that. So that's what it means when you read in the New Testament. It says that, except your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees and Sadducees, you shall not inherit the kingdom of God. But no, I say this to you in this day and time, that except your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the Muslims, of the Christians, of the Catholics, of the Jews, of the Israelites, of the Buddhists, of the Hindus, and every other groups and nationalities, and so on and so forth. To become in oneness with God, you shall not inherit the kingdom of God on this earth. Meaning, God can't impregnate your mind and your spirit and your heart in order to bring this forth. He got to bypass you. You got to look at to another people. He got to choose another generation. He can't choose you. But if he's going to choose you, then you got to want to become better. And then follow a teaching that would place you in a superiority over these other people based on your morals, based on your culture, based on your values and code of ethics. Because that's how you become superior. And there's nothing wrong with inferiors and superiors. But all that needs to say, it's just qualifying yourself. So God has to trust you. Can he trust you? You say, well, God can trust me. Well, if he can trust you, then you have to obey his son. Because he didn't send you a prophet. He didn't send you a messenger. He sent you his son. Are you going to do with his son? And what are you going to do with the teachings that his son is telling you today? Do you follow him, or do you follow yourself? Do you obey him, or do you obey yourself? Now, I don't say, oh, no, I obey my religious leader. I obey my pastor. No, you don't. You're obeying yourself. Because even those pastors, those ministers, those imams, those rabbis, they offer themselves. So all y'all is just, you're about yourself. I'm not about myself. I'm about my God. And I'm into pleasing them only. I'm not into pleasing you. So that's why I don't fear you. About me. I don't have esteem issues. My issue that I have is just completing my duty to my Lord. Do you understand? That's what makes me qualified for the job. So you will never be able to say, well, I'm going to have a meeting with him and I'm going to give him a contribution of $10,000 or whatever, and then he will never talk about me. No, you can keep your money, and I'm going to scold you, reprimand you. So you ain't going to be able to pay me like you can pay some of these, some of these other religious teachers and politicians, so they could just, no, I'm not that brand. I'm not that type. I'm born in this time for this generation, for this people, for you to get it right. So you can't pay me. You can't manipulate me. You can't buy me. A lot of people say they can't be bought. Yes, they already bought, telling you that. But they already bought and paid. You're listening to the only culturally religious teacher in America that has not been bought by nobody because I refused. I'd rather take the long road rather than the short, easy road. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm trying. And is being successful and being in oneness with my God. And I'm teaching you to be the same. And if you don't think that being in oneness with God controls politics, controls economics, controls every aspect of human endeavor, you're mistaken. You're mistaken. Because it goes into every aspect of human life. It's really not religious, it's spiritual. The spirit controls everything. So with that, I'm going to leave you be on that. And I answered the question. Somebody had asked me this, and I said, and I didn't think that it was a good topic at first. I said, you sometimes you just want those powerhouse, subjects. But then after thinking about it, I said, you know what? This is actually good. This is actually good because by teaching them this, can understand where they're off and where they have been mistaken. So then they can make some adjustments. I'm only here to help you to make adjustments. Until next time, I leave you with peace as I came, and I hope that this message has been good for you and your family. Yeah, you should cut on and play it around your kids and so on and so forth, so they can hear it. Play it around your wife. Play it around your husband. Talk about this. Discuss these things, positives and negatives, that you may discover inside of these teachings, because it's just going to promote growth. And I'm into making you grow. I'm into making you understand. This is your time. What you're going to do is totally on you. Until next time. Peace.
Are you ready to be part of something greater? To reconnect with your roots and experience true liberation? Welcome to Gospel of Yashua, where faith, culture, and community unite to uplift and empower. We believe in a future where our people are liberated, prosperous, and united under one God, one culture, and one vision. By joining the world community of Amarna, you'll unlock a path toward peace, prosperity, and spiritual growth. Explore our inspiring podcast to fuel your faith, shop at the Amarna Market for culturally empowering goods, and dive into insightful blogs that reconnect us to our shared heritage. As a member, you contribute to a greater vision, building cultural centers, schools, and businesses that support our people locally and globally. Together, we uplift, protect, and prosper as one. Join us now at gospelofyeshua.com and become part of a global movement dedicated to unity, growth, and prosperity. One God, one culture, one people. The time to grow together is now.